The hospital machines were beeping frantically as I grabbed my father's trembling hand. His eyes were wild with panic, and his voice was barely a whisper when he said the words that would shatter everything I thought I knew about him. "Sarah, I need to tell you something before I die. I've been living a lie for 58 years. I was never really your father. I was always meant to be your mother." The heart monitor showed his pulse racing as tears streamed down his weathered face. Blood pressure was dropping fast, and the nurses were rushing in and out of the room every few minutes. But let me tell you how it all started. Because what I discovered in the next 72 hours would change not just how I saw my father, but how I understood love, courage, and the devastating price of living someone else's life for nearly 6 decades. Before I continue my story, I really want to know where you're watching me from. Tell me in the comments what city you're from, and if you can, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. My name is Sarah Collins, and I'm 32 years old, living in Portland, Oregon. 3 days ago, I thought I had a completely normal relationship with my father, Robert Collins, a 58-year-old construction worker who raised me alone after my mother died when I was 5 years old. He was tough, gruff, never showed much emotion except when he was teaching me practical skills. He taught me how to change oil in my car, throw a perfect spiral, handle power tools, and defend myself in this world. He was everything society expected a single father to be: strong, stoic, traditionally masculine. But what I discovered during his final hours would reveal that every single day of his life had been an elaborate performance, a carefully constructed mask hiding a truth so profound and painful that it had been slowly killing him from the inside for nearly 6 decades. It all started exactly 14 days earlier, when Dad collapsed at the Riverside construction site where he'd worked for 23 years. His coworkers said he just dropped while carrying steel beams, clutching his chest and gasping for air. The paramedics rushed him to Portland General Hospital, where Dr. Martinez delivered the devastating news: stage 4 pancreatic cancer, metastasized to his liver and lungs. The timeline was brutal. Days, not weeks. Maybe 2 weeks if we were incredibly lucky. As I sat by his hospital bed during those first critical hours, watching this incredibly strong man who had been my entire world slowly wither away, I started noticing things I'd never paid attention to before. Every time the female nurses came into his room, his eyes would follow them with a look I'd never seen on his face. It wasn't attraction or any kind of romantic interest. It was something much deeper, more complex. There was longing there, recognition, like he was seeing something he desperately wanted to become. Something that resonated with his very soul. "Dad, are you feeling okay?" I asked one evening as Nurse Patricia adjusted his IV drip and checked his vital signs. His hand instinctively moved to smooth down his graying hair, the same gesture I'd seen him make thousands of times throughout my childhood. But suddenly, it looked different. The movement was delicate, almost feminine, like he was unconsciously mimicking Patricia's graceful motions. "I'm fine, sweetheart," he whispered, but his voice cracked with something that wasn't just physical pain from the cancer. There was emotional agony there, decades of suppressed feelings bubbling to the surface. Little did I know that those seemingly innocent moments were actually my father gathering courage to reveal a secret he'd carried since he was 4 years old. A secret that had shaped every decision, every relationship, every single moment of his entire adult life. The first real clue came when I was going through his belongings at home to bring him some comfortable clothes and personal items for what we all knew would be his final hospital stay. In the back of his bedroom closet, behind rows of worn work boots, flannel shirts, and construction gear, my fingers touched something completely unexpected. Silk. Soft, expensive silk that had no business being in my father's wardrobe. I pulled out a beautiful blue dress, size 14, with the price tags still attached. The label showed it was from Nordstrom, purchased just 3 months ago for $180. My heart stopped completely. Why would my practical, masculine father have an expensive dress hidden in his closet? My mind raced through possible explanations. Maybe it was a gift for someone? But who? He hadn't dated anyone since my mother died 27 years ago. But that shocking discovery was just the beginning of revelations that would completely rewrite my understanding of the man who raised me. Hidden beneath his mattress, pushed all the way to the center where no one would accidentally find it, I discovered a small wooden jewelry box I'd never seen before in my entire life. The wood was worn smooth from handling, and when I opened it, my breath caught in my throat. Inside were dozens of photographs. But they weren't photos of the Robert Collins I knew. They were photos of a woman. A beautiful, radiant woman with soft features, professionally applied makeup, and a smile that literally glowed with joy I had never, ever seen on my father's face. It took me several long minutes to realize I was looking at my father. These weren't old photographs from some distant past. Some had digital timestamps showing they were taken as recently as last year. In photo after photo, I saw this woman wearing different outfits, different hairstyles, different expressions, but always with that same look of pure, authentic happiness. My hands were trembling uncontrollably as I discovered more items hidden throughout his bedroom. Tubes of lipstick in shades called Rose Sunset and Coral Dreams, a beautiful brown wig with soft curls, bottles of nail polish in various shades of pink and red, foundation that matched his skin tone perfectly, and even a driver's license application that had been filled out completely but never submitted. The name written in careful cursive wasn't Robert Collins. It was Rebecca Collins. At the bottom of the box was a leather-bound journal, and when I opened it, the first entry made my knees go weak. January 1st, 2023, Rebecca's New Year resolution. This year, I'm going to find the courage to tell Sarah who I really am. I can't keep living this lie. I'm slowly dying inside, and I think she deserves to know her real parent. The truth was so much worse than I could have imagined. That night, I confronted him with everything I'd found. I brought the wooden box, the dress, the photographs, and the journal to his hospital room. Dad, I found everything. I need you to explain what's going on, and I need you to tell me the truth. His face went completely white, like all the blood had drained from his body, and for a terrifying moment, I thought the shock might actually kill him right there. The heart monitor started beeping faster, and I could see his blood pressure spiking on the digital display. Sarah, he whispered, tears already forming in his eyes. I never wanted you to find out like this. I had a plan. I was going to tell you properly, but then the cancer? His voice trailed off as he struggled to breathe. Find out what, Dad? What is all this stuff? Who is Rebecca? He closed his eyes and took the deepest breath his cancer-ravaged lungs could manage. When he opened them again, I saw something I'd never seen before. Raw, vulnerable truth. I've been living as the wrong person my entire life, he said, each word carefully chosen. When I look in the mirror, I don't see Robert Collins. I never have, not since I was a little child. I see Rebecca. In my heart, in my soul, I've always been Rebecca. What I discovered next would completely change everything I thought I knew about my father's life, my mother's death, and the real reason he never remarried or even dated anyone in 27 years. Your mother knew everything, he continued, his voice getting stronger as he finally spoke the truth he'd carried alone for so long. Linda was the only person in the world who ever knew the real me. She married Robert Collins, but she fell in love with Rebecca Collins. On our wedding night, I completely broke down and told her everything about the feelings I'd had since childhood, about feeling trapped in the wrong body, about the dreams I had of being a woman. Instead of running away or calling off the marriage, she held me all night and said she would love me no matter what form that love needed to take. I was completely stunned into silence. My mother, who died when I was only 5 years old, had known this earth-shattering secret, had actually loved my father, not despite his true identity, but because of it. Linda helped me buy women's clothes, Dad continued, tears flowing freely now. She taught me how to do makeup, how to walk in heels, how to feel comfortable in my own skin for the first time in my life. When we were alone in the house, I could be Rebecca. I could wear dresses, paint my nails, talk in my natural voice instead of the deep masculine voice I'd trained myself to use in public. Those were the happiest years of my entire life. For 6 years, I got to be myself with the person who loved me most. The revelation hit me like a physical blow. My parents' marriage hadn't been the traditional relationship I'd always imagined. It had been something far more complex and beautiful. After she died in that car accident, Dad whispered, I couldn't bear to be Rebecca anymore. Rebecca belonged to Linda. Rebecca was only safe with Linda. So I buried her completely, threw away all the clothes, destroyed the makeup, and became this tough construction worker stereotype. I raised you the only way I knew how, as Robert Collins, the man everyone expected me to be. But Sarah, every single day for the past 27 years, I've felt like I was suffocating, like I was wearing a costume that was slowly strangling my soul. But the most shocking revelation was still coming, and it would explain everything about my father's isolation over the past 3 decades. Dad reached under his pillow with shaking hands and pulled out a sealed envelope addressed to Dr. Patricia Morrison, gender specialist at Pacific Northwest Medical Center. Inside was a completed application for hormone replacement therapy, dated just 6 months ago, along with a check for $2,500 as a consultation fee. I was finally ready, he whispered, gripping my hand so tightly it almost hurt. After all these years of being afraid, of hiding, of dying inside a little more each day, I was ready to live as Rebecca. I had saved up $15,000 for the complete transition. Hormones, surgery, legal name change, everything. I bought women's clothes and hid them throughout the house. I practiced walking in heels for hours in my bedroom when you weren't home. I even started growing my hair out. Do you remember asking me why I stopped getting regular haircuts 6 months ago? I did remember. For months, Dad's hair had been getting noticeably longer, and when I asked about it, he just said he was going through a phase and trying something different. Now I understood. Rebecca had been trying to emerge after nearly 3 decades of being buried alive. But then I got the cancer diagnosis, he continued, his voice breaking. The cancer came so fast, so aggressively. Dr. Martinez said it might have been triggered by decades of chronic stress, years and years of psychological trauma from suppressing my true identity. My body was literally breaking down from the effort of pretending to be someone else for so long. The medical explanation made horrible sense. I'd read about the connection between chronic stress and cancer development, but I'd never imagined that living in the wrong gender could create that level of physical damage. As Dad struggled to catch his breath, I gently took his phone from the bedside table, hoping to call some of his friends or coworkers to let them know about his condition. What I found there completely shattered my understanding of his supposed isolation over the past 27 years. The phone contained hundreds of photos of him dressed as Rebecca, taken in secret over the years. Some were clearly taken in our house during times when I was at school or work. Rebecca sitting at our kitchen table in a beautiful dress, Rebecca doing her makeup in the bathroom mirror, Rebecca cooking dinner while wearing an apron and heels. Others were taken in various hotel rooms during what I'd always assumed were work-related trips, But now I realized were actually precious stolen days when he could live authentically. But the most heartbreaking discovery was a folder labeled Rebecca's Voice Diary. Dozens of audio recordings he'd made over the years, talking to himself in a higher, softer voice about his dreams, his fears, his desperate longing to live as his true self. One recording from last Christmas made me cry uncontrollably. "Hi, Rebecca. It's me again. Today is December 25th, 2024. Sarah gave me a beautiful blue scarf for Christmas this morning. She said it would look good with my eyes, bring out the blue flecks. I wanted so badly to tell her that I absolutely love scarves, that I have a whole secret collection of them hidden in the basement, that her mother used to take me shopping for them when we were alone. But Robert Collins can't love scarves. Robert has to pretend he doesn't understand why anyone would want something so impractical. I'm so tired of being Robert. I'm so tired of pretending to be confused by beautiful things. I just want to hug my daughter as Rebecca, just once before I die." But that wasn't even the most shocking discovery waiting on his phone. I found a secret Facebook account under the name Rebecca Collins with over 300 friends, all from various online support groups for transgender individuals. For the past 8 years, my father had been living a complete double life online, sharing his story, getting advice and emotional support, and finding the community he'd been denied in real life. These people knew him exclusively as Rebecca, supported him through his darkest moments, and celebrated his small victories like buying his first tube of lipstick or finally working up the courage to book a consultation with a gender therapist. The message threads were absolutely heartbreaking to read. One conversation with a user named Transmom Jenny from Seattle showed months of back-and-forth support. "Rebecca, you've been such an incredible inspiration to all of us in this group. Your story about raising your daughter while staying in the closet for her sake has helped literally dozens of parents in similar situations. When are you finally going to tell her the truth? From everything you've shared, she sounds like she loves you unconditionally." Rebecca had responded just 2 weeks before his cancer diagnosis. "Soon, Jenny. I've been practicing the conversation in the mirror every single day. I want to tell her before I start hormone replacement therapy. I just hope and pray that I don't lose her. She's literally the only family I have left in this world." I had absolutely no idea this was just the tip of an enormous iceberg. Going deeper into his online activity, I discovered that Rebecca had been secretly volunteering as a peer counselor for other transgender individuals struggling with late-life transitions. She had personally helped over 60 people find the courage to live authentically, providing emotional support, practical advice, and financial resources when possible. The testimonials from people she'd helped were incredible. Parents who'd found the strength to come out to their adult children, elderly individuals who'd started transitioning in their 70s and 80s, people who'd credited Rebecca with literally saving their lives. But what I didn't know was that Dad's cancer diagnosis had actually accelerated his timeline for transition in a way that would have shocked me if I'd known about it earlier. If this story is shocking you, hit that subscribe button, because what happens next will completely change your perspective on love, identity, and family bonds. "I made a decision the day I got the diagnosis," he told me, gripping my hand even tighter. The oncologist explained that chronic stress and long-term emotional suppression could be contributing factors to cancer development. I realized that hiding Rebecca wasn't just making me miserable, it might literally be killing me. He revealed that 3 weeks before his collapse at the construction site, he had already begun the legal process of changing his name to Rebecca Collins. The paperwork was hidden in a manila folder in his desk drawer at home, along with new identification documents, updated insurance beneficiaries, and even a will that left everything to "my beloved daughter Sarah from your parent Rebecca." "I had planned to tell you everything after my first chemotherapy session," he continued. "I wanted to start hormone therapy alongside cancer treatment to finally introduce you to Rebecca properly. I'd even written out what I was going to say, practiced it hundreds of times. He pointed to his bedside table drawer. The letter is in there. I wrote it 6 months ago and rewrote it dozens of times, trying to find the perfect words to explain 58 years of hiding. But the cancer moved too fast, he whispered. It was so aggressive, so advanced by the time they caught it. I ran out of time before I could find the courage. The real truth about my childhood was hidden in that bedside table drawer, and what I found there would change everything I thought I knew about my own identity. With trembling hands, Dad opened the drawer and pulled out a small velvet jewelry box I'd never seen before. Inside was the most beautiful necklace I'd ever laid eyes on. A delicate silver chain with a pendant that read Rebecca in elegant script, surrounded by tiny diamonds. Your mother gave this to me on our first wedding anniversary, he said, his voice filled with 32 years of hidden love. She had it custom made by a jeweler in downtown Portland. She said that even though the world knew me as Robert Collins, she wanted me to have something beautiful that honored Rebecca too, something that would remind me every day that I was loved for who I really was inside. He lifted his hospital gown slightly, and I gasped. He'd been wearing this feminine, delicate necklace under his clothes every single day for 32 years. I've worn this through every job site, every parent-teacher conference, every single moment of your childhood. Rebecca has been here all along, hidden but never completely gone. I want you to have this now, he said, unclasping the chain from around his neck with shaking fingers. But more than that, I want you to know that Rebecca loved you just as much as Robert did, maybe even more, because Rebecca understood what it felt like to be different, to need acceptance and unconditional love. What happened next would change both of our lives forever, in ways neither of us could have anticipated. I looked at this person I'd called Dad my entire life, really looked at him for the first time with new eyes. Beneath the masculine facade that years of construction work had built, I could suddenly see Rebecca's naturally gentle features, the soft kindness in his eyes, the delicate way he moved his hands when he thought no one was watching. Dad, I said softly, taking the necklace and clasping it around my own neck. What if we only have a few days left? What if you could spend them as Rebecca? His eyes widened with a mixture of hope and absolute terror. Sarah, what are you saying? Do you mean? I'm saying I love you. Robert, Rebecca, whoever you are or want to be. And if Rebecca is who you've always been inside, then I want to meet her properly before. I couldn't finish the sentence, but we both knew what I meant. But what will people think? The hospital staff, the other patients, your friends when they come to visit? I don't care what anyone thinks, I said firmly. This is about you getting to be yourself, finally, after 58 years of hiding. You deserve that. Rebecca deserves that. But the real shock was still coming, and it would transform not just Dad's final days, but my entire understanding of what love and family truly mean. The next morning, I arrived at the hospital with 2 large suitcases. One contained all the women's clothes I'd found hidden throughout his house, the blue dress, several other outfits, shoes, undergarments, accessories. The other contained new items I'd spent the entire night shopping for. A soft pink robe, comfortable pajamas in floral prints, a selection of headscarves for when the chemotherapy made his hair fall out, and several beautiful nightgowns that would be easier to manage with all his medical equipment. I'd also called my friend Maya, who worked as a professional makeup artist for theater productions, and convinced her to come help with Rebecca's transformation. When Maya arrived with her kit of professional cosmetics, Dad's eyes filled with tears. You really meant it, he whispered. You're really going to let me be Rebecca. The transformation took about 2 hours, and watching it was like witnessing a miracle. As Maya gently applied foundation, concealer, and just enough makeup to enhance Dad's natural features without being dramatic, I saw decades of masculine hardness melting away from his face. When she helped him into the blue dress and adjusted the soft brown wig, the change was absolutely stunning. But the most incredible moment came when Rebecca looked in the hospital room mirror for the first time in 27 years and saw her true self looking back. "I look like me," she whispered, touching her face gently as tears rolled down her cheeks. "For the first time in 58 years, I look like me." The hospital staff's reaction was everything I could have hoped for and more. Word had somehow spread through the nursing staff, and when Nurse Patricia came in for her evening shift, she brought a small bouquet of pink roses. "These are for Rebecca," she said with the warmest smile. "I had a feeling about you from the very first day you were admitted. You just seemed like someone who was carrying a beautiful secret." Dr. Martinez was equally supportive, immediately updating all of Rebecca's medical records to reflect her chosen name and pronouns. "It's an honor to meet you, Rebecca," he said simply. "I'm sorry it took a terminal diagnosis for you to feel safe enough to introduce yourself." Over the next 2 days, Rebecca's hospital room became a gathering place for love, acceptance, and community in ways that took my breath away. Her online support group friends drove from across the Pacific Northwest to meet her in person. Maya returned each morning to help Rebecca with makeup and hair, refusing any payment. Even some of Dad's old co-workers from the construction site came by, and while some were clearly struggling to understand, they all treated Rebecca with respect and dignity. But what I discovered during those precious final days about my father's past would reveal why he had been so terrified to live as Rebecca for so many decades. And the truth was darker than I ever imagined. On Rebecca's second day living openly, she felt strong enough to tell me the complete story of her childhood and the trauma that had shaped her entire life. The reason she had hidden for so long wasn't just fear of rejection from society. It was deep psychological wounds that went back to her earliest memories. "When I was 4 years old," Rebecca began, "I told my parents I felt like a girl inside, that I wanted to wear dresses and play with dolls like my older sister Amy. This was 1970 in rural Boise, Idaho. My father, your grandfather William, was a career military man who believed any deviation from traditional gender roles was not just wrong, but dangerous. When he caught me playing with Amy's Barbie dolls or trying on her dress-up clothes, he would lock me in the basement for hours, sometimes entire days." The abuse had been systematic and devastating. Her father had thrown away any toys that weren't considered masculine enough, forced her to cut her hair extremely short, and enrolled her in every traditionally male activity he could find. Little League baseball, Boy Scouts, wrestling. "When I was 12, Rebecca continued, he sent me to Riverside Military Academy in Virginia, hoping to toughen me up and make a real man out of me. I spent 6 years there, learning to suppress every natural instinct, every genuine feeling, every authentic part of myself. The trauma of forced masculinity shaped every relationship and every decision I made for the next 4 decades. But there was one final secret Rebecca had been keeping, and this revelation would completely change how I understood my own identity and place in this story." Rebecca reached back into the drawer and pulled out a birth certificate, not her own, but mine. Except the name on it wasn't just Sarah Collins, like I'd always believed. It was Sarah Rebecca Collins. "Your mother insisted on giving you Rebecca as your middle name," she said, tears flowing freely. "She said that way, a part of me would always be with you, even if the world never got to meet Rebecca properly. She made me promise that if anything ever happened to her, I would eventually tell you the truth and live authentically for both of us." I had never known my full legal name included Rebecca. All my school records, my driver's license, my college diploma, everything had always just said Sarah Collins. But my mother had quietly ensured that Rebecca's name would live on through me, hidden in plain sight, just like Rebecca herself had been. "Sarah Rebecca Collins," she whispered, using my full name for the first time in my life. I need you to promise me something. I need you to live your truth, whatever that truth is, from day one of the rest of your life. Don't spend 58 years hiding like I did. Life is too precious, and authenticity is too important. Promise me you'll be brave in ways I never could. Over the next 18 hours, Rebecca was able to live openly and authentically as herself for the first time in nearly 6 decades. Hospital staff respected her pronouns, visitors called her by her chosen name, and she wore clothes that made her feel like herself. The transformation wasn't just physical. Her entire demeanor changed. She became more talkative, more expressive, more genuinely happy than I had ever seen her. On her final evening, surrounded by new friends from her online support group who had driven from across 3 states to meet her in person, Rebecca smiled with a peace and contentment I had never seen on Robert's face in 32 years. "Thank you," she whispered to me as the sun set outside her hospital window. "Thank you for letting me die as myself. Thank you for giving Rebecca these last few days of real life." Rebecca Collins passed away at 3:47 a.m. on a Thursday morning, wearing her favorite blue dress, the silver necklace that had kept her secret identity close to her heart for 32 years, and a peaceful expression that told me she had finally found the acceptance she'd been searching for her entire life. At her funeral service, I made a decision that I knew would surprise some people, but felt absolutely right. I had 2 photographs displayed at the front of the chapel. One of Robert Collins, the father who had raised me and provided for me, and one of Rebecca Collins, the woman who had lived inside him all along. I read a letter Rebecca had written specifically for her memorial service. "I spent 58 years afraid to be myself, but I want everyone here to know that those final 3 days, when I could finally live as Rebecca Collins, were worth the wait. The love and acceptance I received from my daughter and all of you proved that fear was the only thing standing between me and happiness. Don't wait like I did. Love who you are, live who you are, and surround yourself with people who celebrate your authentic self." But Rebecca's story doesn't end with her death. In many ways, it was just the beginning of something beautiful and transformative. 6 months after Rebecca's passing, I established the Rebecca Collins Foundation for Late Life Gender Transition, providing financial assistance, emotional support, and medical resources for transgender individuals seeking to transition later in life. Using the $15,000 Rebecca had saved for her own transition, plus donations from her online support community and people who heard her story, we've been able to help over 60 people access the medical care, legal services, and emotional support they needed to live authentically. I also legally changed my name to Sarah Rebecca Collins, finally embracing the full identity my mother had given me and my father had secretly shared. Wearing Rebecca's silver necklace every day serves as a constant reminder of the courage it takes to live authentically. Every year on Rebecca's birthday, I wear the silver necklace and visit her grave. Not the grave marked Robert Collins, but a new headstone I had made that reads, "Rebecca Collins, beloved parent, finally free." The most beautiful outcome has been the hundreds of messages I've received from people who heard Rebecca's story. Parents who found the courage to support their transgender children, older adults who decided it's never too late to live authentically, and families who learned that love means accepting people exactly as they are. Rebecca's 3 days of authentic life created ripples that are still spreading, proving that even the shortest time living as your true self can make a profound impact on the world. Share this story if it moved you, because Rebecca's message needs to reach everyone who's still hiding their true self, waiting for permission to be authentic. Love and authenticity win, always.